Hey everybody, Movie Reviewer Next Door here, and I'm back on another review. This time I'm continuing the Kingsman series with The King's Man. This is a 2021 war thriller film directed by Matthew Vaughn, and it stars Ralph Fiennes, Gemma Arterton, Rhys Ifans, Matthew Good, Tom Hollander, Harris Dickinson, and Djimon Hounsou. Also, this is a spoiler review. Um, in this film, as a collection of history's worst tyrants and criminal masterminds gather to plot a war to wipe out millions, one man must race against time to stop them. So, what did I think of The King's Men? Well, I don't think it's a bad movie. It's not. But I do think that it doesn't really fit that well with the other Kingsman films. And I there are things to like about this, and there are things in this that I think could fit in a Kingsman adjacent film, tone wise, but not the overall story and the tone that it ultimately has throughout. But let me get to the cast. Ralph Fiennes plays Orlando Oxford. He is who ends up creating the Kingsman. He does a decent job in this, but he does have quite a few moments where he kind of stutters acting wise. Not stutters in his speech, but his acting performance, like it gets better in the second half, but in the first half there's a lot of stilted line delivery, and it just came off as really odd. Gemma Arterton plays Polly. She is the maid. She does a great job. I've always liked Gemma Arterton. I think they did a pretty good job of avoiding the girl boss shit with this character, which is nice. Rhys Ifans plays Grigory Rasputin. He's fine. I kind of like this performance, but I also think it's a bit too over the top, especially like I feel like this performance would fit in one of the King's Men movies, one of the first two, but not really in this one. Just a second, let me turn off the heated blanket. It's getting a bit too hot. I've been freezing today. Matthew Good plays Morton, who is the right-hand man to Charles Dance's character Kitchener. He's fine. He's really barely in the film. Tom Hollander plays King George. He's fine. Harris Dickinson plays Conrad Oxford, the son of Orlando. He's good. I wish he was in the entire movie, actually. And Djimon Hounsou plays Shola, who is basically, I think, not a slave, but a servant to the household. I always like Djimon Hounsou. I need to see more of his films. I've actually been thinking of seeing Blood Diamond, and I definitely will get to that at some point. But yeah, he does a good job. The main thing that this film, I think, gets wrong, being a part of this universe, is the tone. Because the first two films, Kingsman: The Secret Service and Kingsman: The Golden Circle, it is a very like fun, campy spy movie tone with a bit of a mix of subversive writing, meaning certain characters die that you didn't expect to die, certain like actions from certain characters happen that you wouldn't expect, like a bit of a deconstruction / parody type tone. This film, however, is a very serious war film that a war, like World War I spy thriller tone, and I don't think it fits. It's like if you tried to have like Octopussy in the Bond series, and then the next movie in the series had the tone of, say, the Ipcress File with Michael Caine. Yes, they're both spy movies, but they don't have the same tone. Ipcress File is much more trying to be realistic or more kind of just tempered with its tone. And that's kind of what happens here. Now, does that mean that there aren't like some trying to be extravagant action sequences in this? No, that's not. That there are quite a few. Well, it didn't have as much action as I was expecting, because the trailer for this made it look like this was a full-on like World War One set action movie where it would like just be kind of carefree and a bit more fun, and it really wasn't. There's a lot of bits of the film that are downright depressing, especially regarding Harris Dickinson's character, which, again, spoiler, I said spoiler, he ends up dying in the war after like a long plot with his character about him wanting to fight for his country and all that, and he wants to, like, if he's gonna die, he wants to die for his country. He's wanted that ever since he saw his mom get killed and the dad wasn't able to save her. And like, I think you could have done something with that, but it just kind of feels like it doesn't need to be there in this type of plot. And if this character was removed altogether, even though I like his acting, I like Harris Dickinson. I saw him in what the hell was it called? Where the Crawdads Sing, and I thought he did a pretty great job. But in this type of film where I would hope for like a lighter tone, like maybe a kind of campy tone with some like darker influences in certain parts, I would wanted to go for that. But here, the way he dies too, like, I know they're trying to go for like a shocking thing, like with the first film with the death of Colin Farrell's character. Well, death of Colin Farrell's character in the second film with the death of all the Kingsmen. It just feels very like I felt something. I was like, oh shit, the character's dead. But it didn't feel really earned. And also the way it happens is like a guy thinks that he's a spy because he used somebody else's name in order to get on the front lines. And he doesn't even let him explain it himself, and he just says fucking German spy and then shoots him in the head. And it's just like, really? You wasted this character. Like, this character could have been like something, and it just felt so fucking out of place. Like, insanely out of place. And that kind of continues the Kingsman movies issue with killing off characters with no remorse or even a reason, or with it even feeling earned at a lot of points. Colin Firth's character getting shot in the first one, I felt something, because the movie didn't do that a million times. The second film did it multiple times, where it just killed off beloved characters, or characters people didn't want to die, with no remorse, and it destroyed the Kingsman building and the house. And it just really annoys me when movies do that. It feels like a lame like writing technique to just get the audience to cry or get them emotional or say that a movie took chances. Just because a movie takes chances doesn't mean it's good. Just because a movie isn't afraid to kill off main characters doesn't mean it's good. But anyways, the action sequences in this film, I will say they aren't nearly as good as the first two. Even though I said the second one wasn't nearly as good as the first with the action sequences. But here, you have multiple sword fight sequences, which are well choreographed and well shot, for sure. But they don't fit the tone of the rest of the movie, because the rest of the movie is this super serious World War I spy thriller that I just don't think these exuberant and elaborate action sequences really work. Like, even the war action works because it's like explosions and bullets flying everywhere around Harris Dickinson's character. while he's carrying this guy that's missing a leg, trying to get the trying to get this message to the people back home. And it's not that I didn't enjoy the action. I did. The action is pretty decently well done. Again, I can't say it's on the level of the first or second films, but it works out well enough. And the acting in the film is pretty good from all around. Again, Ralph Fiennes has some issues at times, but and Matthew Good, I've never been able to get a read on him if I like him or not, but actually, I want to grab a movie that I want to say, like, I know it's not the same guy, but there is a film starring Ralph Fiennes' brother that is a war film that I would definitely recommend over this. Enemy at the Gates. Currently my favorite war movie because it's not insanely depressing. Whenever it is sad, it makes sense. It doesn't feel like it's just trying to pile on shit like a Darren Aronofsky movie or a Lars von Trier movie. And I legitimately enjoyed the action. It was very well shot, very brutal. This film's action is well shot. It's not as it's missing that visceral edge that the first two films had. Because you had the camera going up into the action, but not in a way that was obnoxious, but in a way where it feels like you're closer to it. And it didn't like quick cut or anything. This film doesn't quick cut either. They're still well filmed. It's just they didn't hit as hard as I wanted them to. And I think in a film where a lot of the enjoyment of it being classed as an action film is going to be like how good the action is, then you really have to go for it. Because the story here is fine. I don't think the story here is bad, and I can kind of understand how it connects to the other Kingsman movies, but in certain ways, just the tone doesn't fit. It doesn't feel... It doesn't really have its tongue in its cheek at all, like the first two films, and I'm hoping Argyle is a little bit better than this in that respect, because Argyle is kind of a spin-off of the Kingsman universe or something. I don't know if they're in the same universe, but I heard they're spin-offs, and I do want to do that one next. But yeah, like this film, it is a bit of a disappointment for me because I did want like kind of a fun, just action movie set in this time period. But yeah, like it is one of those movies that I am just a bit disappointed. I still thought it was decent though. Again, the music, the score by who the hell did the music? Matthew Margeson and Dominic Lewis. I think Matthew Margeson was the composer of the first two films, and Dominic Lewis joins who did the score to Jolt that I really like. I love the score. I love the score to Jolt. I think it perfectly fits the film. It's a score that you can actually just listen to as music. He also did the score for Spooks the Greater Good, I think, which is another it's an underrated action like spy film that I really enjoy. Seen it quite a few times. Oh, where is it? Whatever. But yeah, like this film, there's not really a lot to talk about for me. Like the frickin' villain here is kind of just whatever. It turns out to be, again, spoilers, this is a spoiler review. It turns out to be Matthew Good's character, who you've seen only in the first 30 minutes of the film, and there's and he's on the ship when the ship explodes, or they film it very deceptively, and that's part of why I don't really like the twist that it turns out to be him, because he's on the ship, then we see like the missile fire, and then the ship goes down. So the film is on purpose not showing you enough, not giving you enough information. So it's been him doing all of this. He's been the Scott. He's been the Scott who's been running everything to try to pit all these countries against each other, and it was a very hollow reveal. I'm not a big fan of it. But yeah, like Rasputin also, like Rasputin I don't mind here, but I don't mind Rhys Ifans portrayal. It's just that if you were going to have him as in the film as a bad guy, I kind of wish he was just the main villain and we knew it from the beginning, because with sometimes with twist villains you barely learn anything about them, and I didn't learn anything about Matthew Good for the frickin' reveal, so it didn't really it didn't really hit or anything. So yeah, like I guess a bit of wasted potential there too. But overall, like I don't think I'd ever watch this again. It's not a bad movie. It's decent for me, but it still I have no real reason to go back to it. It is a bit plotting, the runtime. It is a bit slow. It's only 2 minutes longer than the first film, and the first film is so much better paced than this. But yeah, that was my review of The Kingsman, The King's Man. If you've seen the film, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. If you have any recommendations, put them down there as well. And Movie Reviewer Next Door, out.